Okay, how about another video for all the Delphi cranks and loons in my subscriber page? What do you say? How about it? All right, let's go with the classic, the Robert Ives early days of the investigation.
I knew the girls were missing the day before. And I can tell you, I at least, and I think most people thought, oh, well, they're hanging out with friends, they've had a fight with mom. No such thing happened, don't misunderstand me, but we didn't think much about it. And when the next day, when their bodies were found, it was shocking to everybody. It was certainly shocking to me because in Carroll County, such a crime was unprecedented. People kill each other sometimes, but generally it's a crime of passion. It's about boyfriends, girlfriends, husbands, wives, or some just emotional dispute. We've never had, in my time, I was first prosecutor in 1987, we never had a murder, a robbery, or a random murder. We had drunk driving deaths, we had murders of husbands and wives, but nothing like this. And so it was tremendously shocking. And the outpouring of law enforcement support was incredible then, because not only did the FBI come in extreme numbers, but the law enforcement, the police departments of the surrounding counties, the sheriff's departments, the city police departments, they all sent detectives. And in those early days, there were plenty of leads, but there was no great lead. People have asked me sometimes, was there a point where y'all knew who did it, but you couldn't prove it? No. When I was involved, that point was never reached. There was never a time where we thought, this is the person, we just don't have enough to charge. But there was so much physical evidence of the crime, and the crime had been found so immediately after it had been committed, that it's the sort of thing that experienced law enforcement officers, experienced investigators all believe, well, this is going to be solved really quickly. And normally it would be. It's shocking to me that it hasn't been solved today.
Shocking to me that it hasn't been solved today. And this is, what's the date on this? I'm sorry. I guess I should reference that. 5 years ago, so roughly 2021 is when this went live and published.
In today's world, we have cell phone evidence and we have DNA evidence. But if you had been a police officer in 1960 and you had arrived at this crime scene with the traditional physical evidence that was there, and then not to mention the fact, of course, we had video and audio of the person I think certainly killed the girls, you'd be certain you were going to catch them within 48 hours.
Bridge guy has to be the killer. That's what they thought, right? It's a very reasonable, sort of assumption.
So when you add in the fact that we have evidence today, or we have investigatory methods that we didn't have in the 60s, all police officers, I believe anybody who was involved, I doubt anybody in that first 24 hours had any doubt it was going to be solved within 2-3 days. And
just from the evidence at the scene.
Yes. The circumstances of the crime, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And, then...
The circumstances of the crime. The sticks. The F tree. No, I'm sorry. The transfer stain tree, according to Pat Cicero. Oh, it's a transfer stain of the edge of Libby's palm as she braced herself up against the tree. Oh, boy. Yeah, the sticks that were never collected as evidence until, weeks, months later, something like that. Some of them even, I believe, had blood on them, on the sticks, and some of them even had very clean cuts, like a tool, an implement was used. They weren't just ripped off a nearby tree.
After that, what happened was they developed a system where when there were tips or there were hints or there were reason to believe somebody was in the neighborhood, they would assign, they had so many officers working on it that the guys would, they give them sheets, in fact, go find these people and interview them about where they were that day and so on. And so there was this unbelievable manpower, totally unprecedented in my experience, working on this. And
unprecedented manpower. The FBI was heavy on the scene, heavy with personnel, resources, technology, boots on the ground.
Enthusiastically and passionately, and I would have been certain. If you had asked me at the time, I said, "Oh, next couple of days they're going to find a suspect and action's going to be taken." Not because I had any particular feeling about a particular thing, it's just because of the circumstances of the crime.
At the scene.
Yes. I've told people before there were times in those early days it'd be late at night, and guys would go home because they thought, no, we're going to go out and do this, and then we're going to solve this, because that's the perception everybody had. Not because we had necessarily a really good lead, just because it just seemed like, well, of course this is going to be solved.
Let me stop and comment. I mean, well, Nicole Robertson, Michael Thomas immediately sniffed out that Nulf, Ron Logan's cousin, was lying about the alibi of driving Ron to Aquarium World in Lafayette, Indiana at, the infamous 5:21 p.m. receipt. Nicole Robertson of the FBI, hot and heavy after Ron Logan. They were there. They were on the right trail. Where did it all go wrong?
The location is such it's not a tourist attraction or anything. If you weren't from around here, you'd have no reason to even know such a place existed. The trail actually terminates at the bridge.
There's another little interesting thing. Even some little, the townies, some of the locals in Delphi had never been out to the bridge or never been out to the trails. It wasn't some well-known, tourist stop, some well-known pit stop on the way to Lafayette or Logansport or Kokomo. It was a local secret. So this idea that, some serial killer, traveling across the country, hitchhiking or something like that, happened to stop into Delphi one day and stumbled into a spot, or a perfect spot to lay a trap and get his rocks off, that's extremely unlikely.
The girls had gone out because it was a beautiful day, 52 degrees as I recall, in February. They just decided we're going to go out for a walk. And I remember at the time I would see on the internet and nationally people saying, "I can't believe those girls were out there," as if it was the wilderness. You could walk from my office downtown out to where they were in 20 minutes, maybe half an hour tops. And you could drive there in 2 minutes, 3 minutes. And so it was just on the edge of town. In fact, there were houses. In fact, where the crime scene is, there's a house up on a hill that can actually look down. The backyard can look down and see that house, or the crime scene, I should say. And so the idea that they were someplace dangerous, I wouldn't hesitate to have my child at that age to be walking out there. That's another thing that's shocking about the whole thing. Well, I guess I fear at this point that the most likely thing is, and it's a terrible thing to hope for, is that some other crime would be solved, and the person, as has sometimes happened in the past, the person would say, "Oh, I committed this crime in Delphi also." I started to say, on the one hand, because
how sad, how pathetic, how desperate that Robert Ives was resigned to thinking, well, we need a confession, and we're only going to solve this crime through a confession. Hopefully we catch some other guy committing a crime, and that he comes clean during interrogations that, hey, I also killed Abby and Libby in 2017 in Delphi. Yep, I did that too. That's a very sad and pathetic sort of position to resign yourself to, don't you think?
Because it's not a very famous kind of place, I always tend to think it was a local person. But the fact that it's not been solved.
A local person, maybe like someone who lived right there near the bridge?
And the fact there doesn't appear to be any motivation for it, it appears to be a serial killer type of thing. I'm not saying it is, I don't know. But
wow, so he was on this thing for 10 months, from February to the end of calendar year 2017, and they never figured out a motive. He never got clear on a motive. That's and I know he's just the prosecutor. He's not the chief of police. He's not the sheriff. But I guess that I'm taken aback. That shocks me a little bit that they couldn't even figure out a motive.
Makes me wonder if it wasn't a random act by somebody who isn't around here all the time. But I don't know. I mean, I'd like to tell you I have a strong feeling about that, but I don't. Early on, I would have said, well, surely somebody local, because who would know to be out there? Why would you be out there?
Right. That is very good. I agree with his logic here. Who in the world would know to be out here at 1:30 to 2:15 on a random Monday in February, the 13th, day before Valentine's Day, traipsing around some, secret trail and bridge in Cornfield, Indiana?
Why would you even expect to find any other human beings out there in February?
So
it's broad daylight. This is something that needs to be emphasized. This is not like these girls were in a back alley in the middle of the night. They're in broad daylight. Carroll County.
Well, based on everything I've seen, it wasn't a random thing. It wasn't a lucky strike. It wasn't an impromptu ambush. They were lured out there. Now, people that I've interviewed have disagreed with who, why, how they were lured out there. There's not a strong consensus between the big three that I've interviewed, but everyone thinks this is not a random thing. They were lured out there somehow, some way by someone, or they heard rumors to be out there, something like that. This was not of course, it's portrayed as a spur of the moment thing that they stayed up late the night before and then woke up at 10 or 11 and then just, it was so warm and nice in the middle of winter that they wanted to go take advantage of it and hit the trails. I don't know about that. I'm not sure if I'm buying that story. I do think someone lured them out there somehow, some way. Was Libby excited she was going to meet the Justin Bieber lookalike? What do you guys think? Go ahead, put it in the comments. Do you agree, disagree? Think something totally, entirely different? Go ahead, make a comment.